I remember it like it was yesterday. Last month was a strange time for me. I'm a 32-year-old grocery store manager. My days are long, filled with all kinds of customers. So, I often went to the neighborhood pub to relax after work. It was tea fancy, but it felt like home. The weathered wood panels and the familiar faces brought me comfort. One slow Tuesday, I was nursing a pint when I heard two guys at the bar whispering. Their voices shook like they were scared. I leaned in just enough to hear about a strange figure spotted nearby. I thought it was just another story, something to spice up a slow night. Little did I know. As the weeks passed, I noticed a man in a dark coat sitting in a booth. He was always there, just staring. It felt creepy. I never saw him talk to anyone. Each time I entered, I felt his eyes following me, and it made my skin crawl. Memories of the two guys' whispers echoed in my mind. The feeling of unease grew. I began to dread seeing that booth. Then, one night, the two guys returned. I overheard more of their conversation. This time, they spoke of something they claimed to have seen in the woods. Their eyes were wide with fear, and it made me anxious. I wanted to laugh it off, but there was something in their voices that stopped me. A week later, everything changed. A woman burst through the pub door. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was a wild mess, and tears stained her cheeks. I felt a chill run down my spine as she shouted about something lurking outside. Panic filled her eyes as she warned us of an unseen threat. It felt connected to the whispers I had heard before. I could barely breathe. At that moment, my discomfort reached new heights. I felt strange, like something bigger was happening. Each encounter replayed in my head, connecting pieces of a puzzle I couldn't see. I decided to take a breath and tried to shake off the feeling. I focused on my drink, but that weight wouldn't go away. I looked toward the corner. The man in the dark coat was gone, but someone else was sitting there, watching me. I couldn't see their face, but I felt their gaze piercing through me. It was as if they knew something I didn't. My heart raced. I turned back to my drink, desperate to act normal. What did it mean? I wanted to leave, but my legs felt heavy. I stole another glance, but the seat was empty now. The whispers, the strange man, and the woman's panic twisted in my mind. Was I caught in something bigger? Was I losing my grip? I didn't know what to do next. I just sat there, staring at my beer, waiting for whatever darkness awaited me. Just like that, I understood one thing: it was over. The next day, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I couldn't shake off the memories of the night before. My routine felt different. I felt compelled to find out what was going on around me. After work, I decided to go back to the pub. Maybe I would see the two guys again, or even the woman. I needed answers. As I entered, the pub felt quieter than usual. The usual crowd was absent. I spotted the bartender, Matt, wiping down the counter. I hesitated for a moment, but then walked over. "Hey, Matt. Did you see that woman last night? The one who was screaming about something outside?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked up at me, a mix of recognition and concern flashing across his face. "Yeah, she came in a little shaken. She mentioned something about the woods and something watching her." I swallowed hard. "Did she say who or what she saw?" He shook his head. "No. But the look in her eyes, I won't forget that." "You think it was real?" I didn't know how to answer. I glanced around, searching for any sign of the dark-coated man or the two guys. The tension in the air felt palpable. Just then, a door swung open, and the chill of the evening air swept in. It was one of the guys, Ben. He looked even more haggard than I remembered. His face was pale, and he quickly scanned the room before settling his eyes on me. "Hey, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice low and urgent. I nodded, and we stepped to the side. Did you see what happened last night? I asked, my heart racing. I saw something, he whispered, glancing over his shoulder. Something in the woods. It was staring at me. We need to go back. Back? Are you serious? To the woods? I felt a mix of dread and curiosity. Yeah. I can't explain it here. Just come with me, he insisted. Before I could say anything, a loud crash echoed from the back room, making us both jump. A few people turned, eyebrows raised. What was that? I asked, my pulse quickening again. Ben grabbed my arm. We need to check it out. Now. Reluctantly, I followed him through the dimly lit bar, hot on his heels. My instinct told me to run, but part of me was frozen by fear and intrigue. As we approached the back door, I could feel the tension thickening in the air. I glanced back at Matt, who was watching us with wide eyes. When we stepped outside, the cold hit me hard. The moon was high, and shadows flickered in the trees. That's when I saw something move, a dark figure just beyond the tree line. My breath caught in my throat. Did you see that? I whispered, barely able to contain my panic. Ben nodded, but his expression was a mix of terror and determination. We're not alone. Let us get closer. Before I could protest, he took a step forward. My mind screamed at me to run, but I found my feet unwilling to follow. The figure shifted again, and I felt a pull deep in my gut, the urge to uncover what lay hidden in the darkness. And as I moved forward, I knew there was no turning back. The shadows danced among the trees as Ben slipped further into the darkness. I felt a chill race down my spine, but curiosity urged me forward. Wait, I whispered, gripping his arm. Don't go too far. He turned, his eyes flickering with fear. We have to see what it is. If it's watching us, we can't let it control us. Against my better judgment, I nodded. Together, we crept toward the figure. My heart pounded in my chest, every beat echoing in my ears. The forest felt alive, filled with rustling leaves and distant animal calls. The dark shape shifted again, and I could make out a vague outline, a tall figure, almost human but not quite. What is it? I murmured, fear gnawing at the edges of my mind. I don't know. Just keep moving, Ben urged. He moved ahead, and I followed, albeit hesitantly. The deeper we ventured, the more the air thickened around us, almost as if the woods were holding its breath. Something snapped behind us, branches cracking underfoot. I flinched and turned, but only darkness greeted me. Did you hear that? I asked, panic creeping in. Yeah, but we can't let it distract us. He pressed on, eyes fixed ahead. As we drew closer, I could see more details. The figure was wearing a long coat, shadows swirling around it like a cloak. It stood still, facing the trees, head bent as if listening. A feeling of dread washed over me. It was as if this thing was waiting. Ben halted a few feet away from it, and I had no choice but to stop beside him. My legs felt heavy, the urge to flee creeping back in. Maybe we should go back, I suggested, my voice barely a whisper. No. I need to know what is going on, he insisted, his jaw clenched. Then, without warning, the figure turned slowly. I felt my breath hitch in my throat as cold eyes met mine, dark, empty, and devoid of any warmth. I couldn't move, frozen by fear. Suddenly, the forest erupted with noise, twigs snapping, leaves rustling in a violent gust. I stumbled backward, pulling Ben with me. My gut twisted. Ben! We need to get out of here! I shouted. But before we could turn, the figure took one deliberate step toward us. A voice, low and unsettling, drifted on the wind. You shouldn't have come here. I felt my heart lurch in my chest, panic spiraling. What does it want? I gasped. I don't know, Ben said, his voice trembling. Then everything went dark. The trees around us faded into a black void, the air thickening. I could barely see Ben beside me, his form swallowed entirely. My body screamed to run, to escape the pressing darkness, but fear rooted me to the spot. Just as I was about to scream, I caught a glimmer in the distance, a faint light flickering like a candle. It pulsed softly, and I felt an odd pull toward it. Against my instincts, I found my feet moving forward, drawn to the light as if it held answers. What was happening? What had I stumbled into? And most importantly, would I make it out alive? I stumbled forward, the light growing brighter as the darkness receded around me. My heart raced. I had to know what it was. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, a gamble with whatever fate awaited me. The air shifted, warm and inviting, contrasting sharply with the cold terror moments before. As I approached the source, I realized it was an old lantern, its glass cracked and covered in grime. It hung from a gnarled tree branch, illuminating a small clearing in the forest. The eerie sensation of being watched faded, but I knew I wasn't safe yet. I turned back to where Ben had been, but he was gone. I called out, "Ben! Where are you?" Panic rose in my throat. My voice echoed back, a haunting reminder of my solitude. Was he still in the darkness, or had he found another way out? Glancing around, I noticed strange symbols carved into the surrounding trees, twisting, angular shapes that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but curiosity kept me rooted. I reached out to touch one of the markings, and a jolt of energy surged through my fingers, causing me to pull back. Then I heard it, a whisper carried through the clearing, barely audible. "Come closer." It sounded like Ben, but something was terribly off. The voice had an echo, a lure that made the hairs on my neck stand up. "Ben!" I yelled again, pushing through the panic. "Where are you? Answer me." "No. Don't engage with it." The response was faint, muffled, as if coming from a great distance. My heart sank. Was that really him? Or was it a trick? Suddenly, the lantern flickered violently, then extinguished. Darkness engulfed me again, and the whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a thick fog. In that moment, I felt something brush against my shoulder, a cold, bony hand. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Fear twisted in my gut. I had to find Ben. I turned in the direction of his voice, instinctively moving toward an unseen source of light. This time, I felt a pull, a magnetic urge guiding my steps. Each stride felt treacherous, but I couldn't stop now. Then I caught another flicker ahead, a dim glow just beyond the trees. I rushed forward, desperately wanting it to be Ben, to be safe. As I approached, I halted, the sight before me freezing me in place. There was Ben, but he was standing mesmerized. His face blank, eyes wide, fixated on the light. "Ben!" I screamed, but he didn't respond. The glow intensified, casting shadows that twisted and warped his features. Something was ensnaring him. Before I could reach him, the ground shook, and the clearing pulsated with an energy that felt alive. A horrible realization washed over me. Something was manipulating him, and I was powerless to help. My gut twisted with dread. And then, with a sudden clarity, I saw what the light truly was, a figure emerging, its form shifting, blurring the lines of what was real. I took a step back, heart racing. "Ben!" I cried again, desperation flooding my voice. But the figure reached its hand toward him, and I was frozen, trapped between action and fear. That's when I realized I might not just be losing my friend. I was about to lose myself as well. I stood there, paralyzed by fear as the strange figure extended its hand toward Ben. The air around me crackled with a dark energy that felt alive, taunting me. "What is that?" I whispered under my breath, my mind racing. The figure was like nothing I'd ever seen, fingers elongated, face shifting, almost as if it were composed of shadows itself. "Ben!" I shouted one last time, my voice breaking. I took a step forward, desperate to pull him from whatever trance he was in. But before I could move, the ground beneath me trembled again, stronger this time, and I stumbled back. A fresh wave of terror washed over me. The figure leaned closer to Ben, and the glow radiating from it washed over my friend's face, illuminating his lifeless expression. My heart raced as I could feel the pull of the light trying to draw me in, too. I had to resist. Panic surged within me, pushing me to act. Get away from him, I yelled, fists clenched. I reached for a stone on the ground, feeling its rough texture grounding me. I hurled it towards the figure. It sailed through the air, but as it neared, the stone vanished into thin air, swallowed by the glow. I gasped, my desperation escalating. When the stone disappeared, the figure turned toward me, its movement swift, almost fluid. I froze, realizing I had just provoked whatever it was that loomed before us. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, echoing in my mind, filling it with a cacophony of voices I couldn't comprehend. Join us, become one with the light, they echoed, taunting and soothing all at once. No! I forced the word out, desperate to break their spell. I couldn't lose myself like Ben had. I darted to the side, trying to maneuver around the figure to reach my friend. As I moved, I spotted the symbols on the trees glowing brighter, as if reacting to the chaos. A chilling thought struck me. Were these markings part of this phenomenon? Could they hold the key to breaking whatever hold was on Ben? Ben! Focus on me! I yelled, pushing against the panic threatening to engulf me. You're stronger than this. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw him blink, a flicker of recognition in his wide eyes. But it vanished just as quickly. The figure turned its attention back to me, anger radiating from its form. Leave, it hissed, a whisper filled with a seething rage. No! I shouted defiantly. I felt the warmth of something inside me awaken, a flicker of hope amidst the despair. With a deep breath, I reached out again, but this time, not toward Ben, but toward the glowing symbols on the trees. As I approached the nearest one, memories flooded my mind of us exploring this forest, laughing, making promises. I pressed my palm against the marking, and it pulsed beneath my touch, sending a wave of warmth through my veins. Ben! You need to listen to me, I cried. Find that connection. Fight it. The figure screeched, a sound that pierced the night, and the shadows around it began to churn violently. The ground shook more, and I gripped the tree to steady myself. Just as I thought I had made some progress, the glow dimmed, and then everything went dark again. Ben! I screamed as a sense of dread settled in my gut. What had I done? In that moment of darkness, I felt something shift within me, like a door creaking open. A surge of energy flowed through me, and for the first time, I felt a stitch of clarity. I had to confront this whatever it was. And that's when everything changed. The darkness broke suddenly, and I was jolted back to reality. I blinked, focusing on the figure, now partially shrouded in shadow again. I felt the ground beneath my feet stabilize, but the fear was still there, close behind me. The whispers had receded but were ready to rush back in at a moment's notice. Ben! I shouted again, my voice a bit steadier now. I forced myself to look at him. His eyes were distant, as if he were staring through a glass wall. He seemed so far away, and I was terrified of losing him. I turned towards the glowing symbols, desperate for help. They pulsed with an energy that felt alive and good. Maybe they were protecting me somehow. I reached out again, my fingers grazing the nearest marking. This time it vibrated. I could feel it deep in my bones. Then I remembered something from our hikes. Ben! You have to think back. Those stories we used to tell about the forest focus on one. For a split second, I saw a flicker in his expression. Did I reach him? I had to believe that I could break whatever chain was binding him to that thing. Remember the story of the lost traveler? I pressed on, heart racing. He found a friend in the shadows. Remember how we laughed? The figure let out an inhuman cry, and the air thickened with tension. "Stop!" it commanded. The light surrounding it pulsed, shifting from a bright glow to a sickening black. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Fight it, Ben! Come back to me!" I yelled, the urgency spilling out of me. I searched his eyes. Any sign of recognition? Clarity flooded back. The warmth from the symbols pressed through me. The shadows roiled and a dark wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it the feeling of despair. I struggled against it, my breath catching in my throat. Then, with a deep breath, I spoke the words again, more forcefully this time. "Ben! Fight!" And then it happened. His eyes widened, a flicker of comprehension breaking through the fog. For a heartbeat, I felt a strong connection, and I reached deeper into whatever power was awakening inside me. My hand pressed firmly against the glowing symbol, and I concentrated hard, feeling the warmth envelop me, branching out towards him. The figure hissed louder, its voice laced with fury. "You cannot, but I won't back down," I shouted. "We are stronger together. Remember our promises." Suddenly, Ben's eyes shifted, and the glow surrounding him surged. I watched as the shadows began to recoil, retreating from him. "You have to let it go, Ben," I shouted, my voice cracking. That S when I saw it, a glimmer of light flickering from within Ben's chest. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and for a moment, it opened up, radiating warmth that cut through the shadows like a knife. But as soon as Ben blinked, that connection wavered. The figure shrieked, and the atmosphere shifted violently. With a rush of fear, I stepped back as the darkness surged toward me. The symbols on the trees brightened as if reacting to the struggle, but in that moment, I felt the fear return with full force. I had pushed too hard, and now it felt like everything was on the brink of collapsing again. "Ben, please!" I screamed into the chaos. "You have to fight it." But just as I thought I was making progress, the light from within Ben dimmed, and the figure lunged forward with a speed that left me breathless. The darkness swept toward me, and before I knew it, I was engulfed. That S when the ground beneath me cracked open, exposing a swirling abyss below. My heart dropped. What was happening? My breath caught as I felt myself slipping away, desperate for an answer. I fell. The ground opened up, like a mouth ready to swallow me whole. I braced myself, heart racing, panic clawing at my throat. As I plummeted, the darkness yawned wider, wrapping around me like an icy embrace. I couldn't scream, couldn't think. All I felt was the void and the fading sounds of the forest above. Then I landed hard. Instead of the anticipated impact, I found myself on solid ground, though the environment was entirely different. I was no longer in the clearing. Around me swirled shadows that danced and flickered, glowing symbols from my earlier confrontation now floating like stars in an ink-black sky. I pushed myself up, gasping for air. The abyss had changed to something unsettling but eerily beautiful. I could see Ben, standing far off in this strange landscape. He looked confused, still trapped in the haze. The figure loomed behind him, seething and angry, its shape shifting like smoke. "Ben!" I called, my voice echoing unnaturally. "I'm here." I tried to reach toward him. The ground felt unstable, shifting like quicksand. With every step I took, each motion threatened to drag me back down into the dark. I fought against it, desperate to reach him before the shadows could close in again. "Stay away from him," I warned, glancing back at the figure. Its eyes glinted with malice, and for a moment, I felt the old whispers return, swirling around me, beckoning me to join them. I shut my eyes tightly, seeking clarity in the chaos that began to swirl in my mind. "Ben, remember our stories. I shouted again, my voice stronger now. Focus on them. We're not alone in this. Ben's head snapped in my direction, his eyes momentarily clearing, the light flickering within him rebounding against the darkness. I took a deep breath and gathered the warmth from the symbols that surrounded me, channeling it toward him. As I did, the ground trembled beneath my feet. The figure shrieked, a sound that cut through the shadows like glass shattering. The ground cracked again, but this time, it revealed a path behind me, an exit, perhaps? The shadows writhed, angry at my defiance. Come to me! We can break this! I yelled, desperation fueling my words. I pushed the light forward as if casting a net to pull Ben to safety. But just as hope sparked, the abyss thickened. A wave of cold energy swept over me, knocking me backward. I collapsed, the symbols fading. I felt the shadows pulling me down, deeper into despair. The cries of lost souls echoed, blending into a chaotic symphony of torment. Then, through sheer force of will, I grasped the last shreds of my courage. We will not be taken! I shouted into the void, focusing on Ben. We are stronger together. I could see the flicker of light in him struggling against the darkness. He needed to fight. He needed to remember who he was. As the figure lunged again, it was as if time paused. The shadows screamed, but what I saw in that moment, the glimmer in Ben's chest, lit up the void. The shadows began to recoil slightly. I could not let this moment slip away, and then I felt it, a sudden tug in my chest, as if the swirling darkness had found a weakness. A truth began to unravel. That was when I heard it, a faint voice whispering through the chaos. Find the key, and the light will follow. But what was the key? And where did it lead? Just then, the ground shuddered violently, and the world around us blurred, everything shifting like sand in a storm. The ground stopped shaking, but the chaos did not. Shadows twisted and pulsed, and I felt my resolve wavering. I searched for Ben, my heart pounding. Ben! I called again, but the words barely made it past my lips. Suddenly, a low rumble reverberated through the air, echoing like a distant storm. I scanned the horizon, panic gripping me at the sight of countless shadowy figures emerging from the blackness. They were advancing, merging into a swarm, their gaze fixed on both Ben and me. Ben, listen! I urged, feeling desperation clawing at my throat. We have to find the key. Focus on the stories. His brows furrowed, shifting between confusion and recognition. The stories? He murmured. I could see sparks of light flickering more intensely in him, but it seemed to waver under the pressure of the figure stalking him. Whatever it is that makes you feel brave or safe, hold on to it. I shouted, feeling a surge of strength coursing through me. The symbol beneath my feet pulsed, and I leaned into it, drawing on whatever energy it provided. In Ben's eyes, a surge of clarity shone through the haze. The key, it's a story, isn't it? He whispered, his voice trembling yet determined. The one where we escaped the shadows? Exactly, I yelled, grabbing that glimmer of hope. You know the ending? Just remember. Around us, the figures strained their creeping forms, anger twisting their features. I could feel their eyes boring into me, urging me to fall back into fear. I refused. I clenched my fists, calling upon every memory we had of triumph against dark things, every tale of light fighting the dark. Ben suddenly stepped forward, stronger now. Let us show them, he said, and as those words left his mouth, light burst from him, a radiant beam piercing through the shadowy figures. The air crackled, and the shadows began to flinch. Something primal stirred inside them. The brightness poured out like molten gold, illuminating the darkness, and I felt the warmth seep into my bones. But just as quickly, the dark figures began to close in again, enveloping Ben. My heart dropped. Ben! I shouted, and without thinking, I rushed toward him. As I neared, the coldness pressed against me, and the shadows clawed at my arms like icy fingers. "Hold on!" I screamed, reaching for him. But the weight of their malice was visceral, a force I felt pressing down on me. Then, I noticed it, a shimmering key-shaped symbol glowing faintly among the chaos, half buried in the shadows. It pulsed steadily, beckoning to me. "The key!" I shouted, pointing toward it. "We need that." "Go!" Ben shouted back, his face determined but shadowed with pain. "I'll distract them." "No! We are stronger together," I protested, my voice choked with fear. But the shadows were relentless, their claws wrapping tighter around Ben. "Trust me," he shouted, locking eyes with me for a split second. With a deep breath, I turned and sprinted towards the symbol, the figures closing in behind me, a cacophony of shrieks rising in the air. Then, a blinding flash erupted behind me, and I stumbled forward, just as the darkness erupted into chaos. Everything shook the ground, the air as if the very fabric of this place was tearing apart. It was unfolding too quickly. I gripped the key symbol, feeling its warmth against my palm, and everything turned dark. I didn't know if I was falling again, or if the world was collapsing. All I understood was that I had to hold onto this light, the warmth of it, no matter what came next. That was when a new figure emerged from the shadows. "You should have chosen the darkness," it hissed. I froze, realizing I was no longer alone. I squinted against the dark, trying to make out the figure before me. It loomed, its shape shifting like smoke, too vague to understand. The air squeezed tight around me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice trembling as I gripped the key symbol tighter. "What do you want?" The figure laughed softly, a sound devoid of warmth. "This is your moment of choice. Embrace the darkness, or let it take what you hold dear." It stepped closer, and I saw its eyes gleam like black stars, searching for fear in my heart. Where was Ben? Panic flared, but I fought to calm myself. I had come too far to back down now. "You think I'm afraid of you?" I challenged, struggling to keep the tremor out of my voice. "I have light with me, and I'm not going to let you win." It sneered at me, the shadows swirling around its form. "You cling to fading hope, but even the strongest light falters. You're outnumbered. You cannot escape the shadows forever." I could feel the weight of that statement. How long had we been running from darkness? I remembered Ben's words, the stories we shared. Stories of bravery, of finding strength even when hope seemed lost. I closed my eyes, willing that sense of warmth to surge within me again. Then, a sharp scream pierced through the air. It was familiar, and dread sliced through me like a blade. "Ben!" I cried, twisting my head back toward the swirling shadows. The figure cackled, taking delight in my fear. "Do you hear him?" it taunted. "He struggles, just as you did. But you are both destined to remain in this realm of shadows. Accept it." Desperation clawed at me. "No! I will never accept that." The key in my hand pulsed again, and I could feel it brightening, responding to my resolve. Together, Ben and I can break free. With newfound determination, I opened my eyes, pulling power from the key. A warm glow radiated outward, pushing against the darkness. The figure howled as the light began to slice through the shadows, illuminating the chaos around me. I could see dark figures recoiling, their forms wavering under the sudden brightness. But the shadows weren't done. They surged forward, intensifying their attack. I strained against the torrent of darkness trying to envelop me, focusing on Ben. I had to reach him. Suddenly, the figure lunged. I barely dodged aside, the air around me thickening with its hatred. "You think this light makes you invincible?" it spat. "You cannot save him." That S when I saw it, an opening in the mass of shadows behind the figure, a faint glimmer of Ben's light struggling to break free. I locked onto it, desperation igniting my instincts. Without further hesitation, I charged, my heart racing. Ben! I called out again, pouring everything I had into my voice, hoping he could hear me. In my peripheral vision, the figure howled in fury. Fool! It bellowed. You'll regret this. I didn't he respond. My focus narrowed. I was almost there, almost with him. But just as I reached the edge of the shadows, everything shifted again. The ground trembled beneath me, a violent shake that threatened to throw me off balance. Then everything went dark again, and I felt myself being pulled away. It wasn't the shadowy figures this time, but something far more sinister. The realization hit me hard. I had to find Ben. Whatever was happening, I would face it head-on, even if it meant confronting the very essence of fear itself. I couldn't hold on much longer. But in the darkness, I felt something else shift, a new threat curling around me like smoke, and I knew this fight was just beginning. I awoke gasping as a rush of air surged around me. Blinking against the bright light, I felt the familiar but jarring sensation of solid ground underfoot. I was back in the woods, the moon casting a silvery glow through the trees. Confusion clouded my mind. Where was Ben? I sprang to my feet, adrenaline propelling me forward. I scanned the area for signs of him, a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. The familiar symbols I had touched earlier were gone. The trees stood silent and still, almost mocking me. Ben! I called out, my voice echoing into the night. Where are you? Panic clawed at me as I replayed everything we had faced. The darkness, the whispers, the figure. What was that creature? My mind wrestled with remnants of doubt, while I desperately sought any trace of Ben. Was he still lost in that terrible shadow realm? Was it my fault? Then, from deeper in the woods, I heard a faint echo, a voice barely breaking through the stillness. Help! He's here! It was faint, but something inside me ignited with hope. I rushed toward the sound, pushing through branches that clawed at my skin. Each step felt heavy, laden with regret and uncertainty. Just as I broke through a thicket, I stumbled into a small clearing. There in the center, I saw him. Ben was standing with his back to me, frozen in place, staring into nothingness. Relief washed over me before panic returned. He looked lost, vacant, as if the encounter had shaken him past recovery. Ben! I shouted again, urgency spilling from my lips. Don't come any closer, he hissed without turning. I halted, heart pounding in my chest. The urgency was palpable. You don't understand it. I'll take you to. Take me where? What do you mean? I stepped forward again, drawn by his voice, a tugging magnetism tempered with fear. He turned slightly, and I noticed the shadows flickering around him like frantic wisps, dancing in the moonlight. It was disorienting. I can hear them, he stammered, breath shaky. The whispers, they're back. They're always around us. The darkness was still there, lurking behind, coiling around us like a predatory thread. Ben, listen to me. We need to break this together. He shook his head, the shadows swirling more insidiously. I can't. I don't know how. Suddenly, a chill swept through the air. The figure emerged from behind him, its form morphing, eyes glowing with malevolence. You should not have returned, it hissed, a voice dripping with scorn. Its presence was suffocating, but I stood my ground. There is no power over us. We are stronger, I shouted, drawing from my own fear and love for Ben. I thought of our laughter, our adventures, the stories we spun. The figure recoiled, angry and confused. You'll join him soon enough, it sneered, but this time I wasn't afraid. Ben! Remember our tales, I urged, reaching out for him. You are braver than this. Think back to the light we found together. The story of escaping the dark. As I spoke, I noticed flickers of light behind Ben's eyes, a spark of recognition fighting through the emptiness. Light, he murmured, hesitating. I pushed forward, seizing the moment. Yes. The light is within you. You just need to believe. As my words ignited a flicker of hope, the figure grew angry, lunging toward us with a storm of shadows. I felt chills crawling across my skin as if the darkness sought to extinguish our flame. You want to prevail. It screeched. Hold on to me, Ben. We can break free. The whispers surged, but I refused to let them drown us out. I stepped closer, locking my gaze on him. We are not alone in this. In an instant, he turned fully towards me, a glow forming around his silhouette. We are stronger together, he shouted. The figure howled, clearly agitated, but the shadows were retreating, losing grip. Then suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath us. I lost my footing but steadied myself, my heart racing, desperate to keep the momentum. Ben's light swelled, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. Together, we can break this. He extended his hand towards me. In that moment, the world around us exploded with a blinding brilliance. The light surged forward, forcing back the dark figure, causing it to scream in fury. The chaos erupted, shadows disintegrating into wisps of smoke as the final strands of our connection flickered between us. I felt an odd pull towards the light, a promise of escape and safety waiting just beyond my reach. Ben! It's time! I yelled over the cacophony. And then everything fragmented. Light filled my vision, and warmth spread through my limbs as I felt myself being drawn into the brilliance. In those last brief moments, I could see Ben's face illuminated in raw strength, his determined eyes contrasting the darkness that was willing itself to fade. Then, just like that, the light swallowed us whole. I didn't know where I was going, but if Ben was beside me, it wouldn't matter. As everything faded to a blinding white, I was left with one lingering thought: had we truly escaped? And what had really happened? Not one of those questions settled in my mind before the world shifted again, throwing me from one place to another. It was fear this time, though I could feel it. Whatever awaited on the other side, it was no longer wrapped in shadows. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I breathed.